Hello, 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 and welcome to LEMD's live educational series. We are glad you're here joining us as we continue our mission to help people live healthier, longer lives. At LEMD, we go beyond telehealth. We're a community rooted in education, innovation, and whole body wellness. And today, we're excited to welcome Raquel McDermott, a certified functional medicine health coach who specializes in gut health, inflammation, energy, and mindset. All the good stuff, Raquel. Raquel's passionate about helping individuals uncover the root cause of fatigue, brain fog, and low motivation by supporting the body's natural balance through nutrition, lifestyle changes, and holistic wellness strategies. With a compassionate and practical approach, Raquel empowers clients to create sustainable habits that enhance clarity, reduce inflammation, and restore energy, helping them feel like the best version of themselves. Well, thank you so much, Raquel. Thank you for being here and educating our community. We love that.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Well, share a little about your background and how you got here, what made you so
Ooh.
passionate about functional health, and yeah, give us your story.
Well, I'll just go right to the the point. I'm 54, and when I was 35, my health went from being optimal and great to barely being able to function to the point where I didn't see what the reason was for me being here on this earth. And I had a husband at the time and three small children, the youngest being a brand new baby. And I wasn't getting help. Oof. I wasn't getting help from anyone. I was asking for them to get to the root cause. I live close to Seattle. So I was going from Seattle to Bellingham and anywhere else I could, spending whatever money I had to try to find answers because I was dizzy, fatigued, had no energy. And before that, I was the girl in the weight room out lifting the guys. I was, I had energy for days. And all of a sudden, I didn't have any, and I would crash after weightlifting, just come home and just crash out. And it got to the point where I just couldn't function and I wasn't getting answers. And I kept listening to my intuition. Being intuitive, I knew that I needed to listen to that. And I was asking doctors from the UW to you name it, please get to the root cause. And they're like, no, 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 you're presenting as fibromyalgia, depression, rheumatoid arthritis. And I was like, I know that's not it. I was fine just a few months ago. All of a sudden, boom, I had a whole bunch of symptoms. So, long story short, it took me over 6 years, over 11 different doctors, thousands of dollars, thousands of hours of my own research and advocating for myself to discover I was dealing with Hashimoto's. I was dealing with what they used to call adrenal fatigue. Now we call it HPA axis dysfunction because why make something shorter, right? And the discovery behind that is discovering that fatigue has to do with our hypothalamus, our pituitary, and our adrenals. It's not just the adrenals.
Mm.
And um, so once I was able to start eating how I needed to, following a paleo like lifestyle, I was able to finally lose the 30 pounds that I had had. I was having perimenopause symptoms, in my mid 30s because of this. And a lot of those symptoms went away. And at the time, I was asking doctors also to check my gut. Let's get to the root cause. And I was being told back then, 20 years ago, the gut had nothing to do with anything else. And my brain fog was so debilitating, I probably shouldn't have been driving. I wasn't really safe to be on the road. So, but I was doing what I could, being high strung type A, not dealing with past trauma, not dealing with my stress, and just trying to plow through and do life. And I finally got to the point where I started doing a lot of work, inner work within myself, a lot of mindset work, a lot of soul work, if you will, and a lot of trauma work, releasing a lot of trauma. This is our interview today, or our time together today, is a cumulative of over a decade of my work,
Mm.
pouring into myself and being able to finally be able to pour into others. And really getting to the root cause of a lot of that was not being able to speak my truth, not being able to really voice that I mattered. And we would probably call that people pleasing now. And finally discovering that it was okay for me to say no, that no is actually a complete sentence. And boundaries are not mean, they're actually a way of self love. And so, one of my biggest missions in my space is a holistic life coach, because I use my life coaching, I use my functional medicine coaching, I use my trauma informed coaching, my somatic parts work, inner child healing coaching, my communication coaching. I use all of it because we're not just the brain, we're not just the heart, we're not just the gut, we're all of it, mind, body, and soul.
Mm.
And that is that has been my catalyst, my why. And fast forward, my son, who was a brand new baby when all this stuff started happening, is now 19, and I am creating what I call a living legacy of healing, because I'm seeing these past generational patterns and traumas broken in real time with myself and my kids, who are almost 29, 23 and a half, and 19.
Mm. That
And
is so beautiful, Raquel. We've spoken before, but every time you share your story, it just touches my heart because so many of us, I mean, if you're on this call listening to this and you relate, put it in the messages because so many of us relate to that same story. And thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey, your vulnerability, your passion. Thank you for coming here and helping us learn a little bit more and maybe being that guide for an inspiration for someone who's going through something similar. So thank you. Aw. Well, first and foremost, I appreciate you being here, but let's talk about inflammation because in the world of aging, and I was just at a women's health summit last week, and inflammaging is a key term. I mean, there's inflammations at the root cause of a lot of the aging processes in the body and senescence and so forth. So, why don't you share with our community what is inflammation? What's at the root cause of inflammation?
mm, well, I have notes because I want to make sure that I get my message across. Um, Inflammation is the root of almost everything when it comes to how we feel physically and emotionally. And it's really our body's alarm system saying, hey, there's something off here, there's something going on. And when it becomes chronic, in other words, you're not dealing with it just for 1 or 2 days, you're dealing with it for months and years. It can show up as fatigue, it can show up as bloating, joint pain, headaches. So if you deal with migraines often, that's inflammation. But it also messes with neurotransmitters. And what that is our serotonin and our dopamine, our feel good hormones, for people that aren't familiar with that. So if you deal with ADHD, that's a dopamine driven situation right there. But when we start, it can cause us to start feeling moody and anxious, brain foggy. So inflammation doesn't just make you feel a certain way. You can also, like with me, if I can tell if my eating is off a little bit because my eyelids will be a little puffy. No one else can tell, but I can tell. And I was looking at some pictures. In fact, my friend Jen, who may or may not be on this call, we've known each other since we were teenagers, and we took some pictures together probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And it came up in my feed the other day on my phone, my Google pictures. And I sent it to her, and we both were like, oh my gosh, do you see that inflammation? And I guarantee you that nobody else could probably see the inflammation in our face. But bringing down the inflammation helps you be more calm and centered. I know that when I started using trizepatide, that was at the end of July. I started having some major life stressors. Well, I'd had some life stressors. I walked my grandmother home on July 3rd, and she was 97 and a half years old. And so I got to hold her hand in that moment. It was beautiful. However, that adds to some stress. And then I had some other life stressors and then surgery. But that whole time, my brain was so much more calm and even killed than I normally am dealing with those life stressors. And that to me was showing me right off the bat how this was helping so much with inflammation and my rings getting looser on my fingers before I was even losing any weight. And so those are some key components that people don't think about with inflammation. Another thing that we don't realize with inflammation, here's the gut and skin connection. If you have a rash or bumpy skin, that's inflammation, and that's upset gut health.
Mm. So what causes it? What is at the root cause of inflammation? Is it the food that we eat? Is it our environmental factors? Is it stress? Maybe talk to us about all the things that contribute to inflammation.
True, true. And it's different for every person, but there are some common denominators. Like when I go into someone's home and they have like plug-ins with scents everywhere, and every lotion they have and every hand soap is scented, that causes inflammation. It's not just the food we put in our mouth; it's the things that are in our environment that we think are going to make our home smell better, or whatever the case might be. But chemical fragrances contribute to inflammation. Eating in a way that's not best for us. One of my clients, we just did a food sensitivity test on her, and 5 of the 10 things that came up, she was like, "But I love those." And I said, "Yes, but they don't love you, and they're causing inflammation in your body." And so one of the sensitivity items was cod. You would think that, it's a meat, it's safe, but every person is different. I just ran my own food sensitivity test last, well, 2 weeks ago, and some of my favorites are on there, like coconut. So I'm now craving coconut water really, really bad, but that was a contributor to inflammation. So if we're taking in things that our body doesn't agree with, that's causing inflammation. If we are holding on to past stress and trauma and grudges, gossiping, all that is toxic. And that's actually where that saying comes, the issues are in the tissues. All that can cause inflammation also.
Yeah, for me, the big one, I mean, processed foods, I
Yep.
don't, well, I feel it. And alcohol, even a glass of wine,
Hmm.
it just triggers my body. But thank
Well,
you
alcohol is toxic to every cell in our body, whether we like it or not.
for
Except for maybe tequila, right? That might be safe, right?
what they say. The longevity drink. Um, let's talk a little about brain fog. It's something a lot of us experience.
Yeah.
What are some of the root causes? I know I could share my experience, like my cycles. I mean, I'm not menopausal, I'm perimenopausal, but
Mm.
um, like my cycles, the brain fog, I feel it. Post ovulation, everything starts to decline until it comes to a crash. But what are the typical reasons and for brain fog, and most importantly, what can we do about it?
Well, blood sugar swings are a big one,
Mm,
and our hormones fluctuating are a big one. Um, Poor gut health, food sensitivities, chronic stress, cortisol. Your cortisol could be too high, it could be too low. It's got to have that happy medium. Um, and of course, like I said, the hormonal imbalances. So those are the root causes really of brain fog, and also thyroid issues. Speaking from experience, the it wasn't just hypothyroid; it was Hashimoto's, and it requires that we actually step up and take radical care of ourselves. And I believe that quite often we are taught in the society that we don't matter, specifically as women, specifically if you are an oldest child, whether you're, doesn't matter what your gender is, you're taught that you don't matter. And when you're putting your needs last, you're really not staying in touch and in tune with what you're dealing with. I used to have brain fog so bad that it felt like I was thinking through mud.
mm,
And it feels so good not to be thinking through mud.
I'm sure. So, are there tests for measuring inflammation, checking these things, knowing where you are?
Yes.
If you are experiencing brain fog or you just don't feel good,
Yep.
where can you start? And the reason I bring this up is I'm very close to the Stanford campus.
Mm.
Stanford, they're doing some of the most innovative research there is out there, both on longevity, on molecular biology and cell biology and so forth. And I attend some of their panels. And at this panel, they're not asking, people aren't asking about Yamanaka factors and all sorts of sophisticated. They're just like, where do I start?
Yeah.
What's the test that I request for my doctor?
Yeah.
What should I expect? What does feeling good look like? So maybe share with us a little bit, where can we start if we want to start our journey?
Well, they can reach out to me at feelgoodwellness.org. I have a consult button there. The great thing about being a functional medicine health coach, I can do everything a doctor can do except write you a prescription, and I can't diagnose you. I kind of laugh at that because all my diagnoses that were given to me by doctors, early on were incorrect. So I was like, I don't even care about that. So I can run. I don't run blood panels, but I have a lab that I work hand in hand with. So we test for cortisol levels through saliva. A lot of the tests I do are saliva and urine. There are some blood labs that we can run as well. But if someone does have a doctor and does have insurance and would rather do that, they can reach out to me and I can just give them a slew of labs and say, here, go for that. Sometimes the doctor.
No, it's usually so you're saying cortisol, your hormones, are there other your lipid panel, so a general blood panel, what additional things should you request?
A full thyroid panel. Usually, I'm hearing back from my clients that their doctor only ran like a TSH. That is like one piece in a 10,000 piece puzzle. It's silliness. So, a full thyroid panel, your comprehensive metabolic panel, um, your a cortisol panel, and some. I'm getting feedback again. I have clients that do have doctors, do have insurance, but the doctors are not listening to them. And so they're coming to me and saying, I'm willing to pay you to get done what I need to do. And I'm like, I get that. I've been there, and so a lot of the cortisol panels that I'm hearing are like one cortisol panel. And we need to know what your cortisol is, 4 or 5 different times throughout the day.
Mm,
It's not just a one and done.
that's
And and then we have to discuss like what's been going on behind the scenes. How are you being in life? Are you saying yes to everything when you're so exhausted you can't function? How is your self-care? Because self-care isn't selfish. It's actually one of the most self-honoring things that we can do. And as a parent, me self-honoring myself is showing my kids that they matter also because they're not listening to what I say. They're watching and doing what I do.
mm,
And, here we are in real time. Like I said, I'm seeing them have boundaries with friends and partners and each other and even myself. And there are times where I'm like, dang it, I did that. And that boundary was put there on me because of our relationship. And yay.
that's right. Mm, and, so just so we wrap up this section, let's connect it back to the gut. Can improving gut health really make a difference in our energy and mood? And if so, how?
Absolutely. When your gut is happy, your brain is happy, you're more calm, you're more at peace. I know when my gut, I can only speak from my experience, when my gut was a wreck, I couldn't handle any amount of stress. I would just, I've never had a temper, but I tell you what, when my gut was a wreck and I got stressed, I was not fun to be around. I would just be super cranky. I might even raise my voice, and that's not who I want to be.
Mm,
It's never who I've been. And it was really difficult to see someone else showing up looking like me, but not acting like me. And it was because my gut was such a wreck. And the happier and healthier my gut got, the more calm and relaxed and peaceful I got. And the more I was able to actually communicate what my wants and my needs were and actually have a clear mind and be at peace.
mm.
And healing our gut is different for everybody because we are all unique. It's not one size fits all.
So maybe give us some guidance on how we can help heal our gut. What are
First,
some ways?
yeah, one of the first things you need to do is cut out junk food. Diet Coke, diet anything is not a healthier version. It's just another toxin. So if you can minimize your toxin load, think of it that way. So if you want to go guns a blazing, so to speak, you can just cut every bit of processed everything out. If it came from the ground or came from an animal, you're good, um, you know, or a tree. So if it came from nature, that's good for our gut. And it takes time. And good prebiotics and probiotics are helpful and beneficial. Um, but there are so many things. I've had some clients that have had minor gut health issues where they just had an overload of bad guys. So we had to do what's called a kill protocol. There are supplements out there that kill off some of the bad guys, and then we bring in the probiotics to help support the good guys. And then I've had clients come in and their gut is so bad that I actually have to reach out to their doctor and say, hey, they need a colonoscopy.
Mm.
And so, like I said, it is different for everyone. And those key components of get junk food out of your life. It's not, I know it's quick and easy, but if you break down the dollar amount and the time that you're dealing with all of that and what it's doing to your health and your brain health, it's not benefiting anything or anyone.
Mm. Someone asked, and I forgot to ask this question while we were on the topic of brain fog, but it's still relevant. It's all related.
Mhm.
Um, are the brain fog root causes different for men versus women? That well,
That
there's hormonal shifts, testosterone, yeah.
um, it can be one of the most undetected causes for brain fog for men. Quite often is celiac because celiac is considered a woman's disease, um, but it affects men as well, and it actually is a huge contributor to low testosterone. But it is quite often not checked. And also because more often than not, men don't go to the doctors. They just suck it up and go through. And it's one of the things that I love helping folks learn how to actually love themselves enough to take care of themselves.
Mm. Leslie wrote, how about the water we shower and brush our teeth with? I feel like I drink clean water,
Mhm.
but every other place I access water is toxic. Mm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What we put in our body, whether it's water or food, yeah, all of that's important. I have a I'm on city water. It's actually really good city water, but it has things in it that I don't want in my body. So my whole goal has been to reduce my toxic load. So I have a Berkey water filter that filters out everything.
Mm. So let's shift gears and talk about peptides for a little bit. It's a hot topic in
Mm-hmm.
wellness. For those who are new, how would you describe what peptides are and how they work in the body?
Mm. Well, peptides, I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure I got it right because I'll just be very transparent here. About 6 years ago, I was going to a doctor's office where I was paying an exorbitant monthly fee plus paying for appointments. And I still to this day don't even know what peptide they put me on. I went to two different appointments and she injected me and sent me off. I was so clueless, and it made me super nauseous. And I said, "It's making me whatever you're doing. It's nauseous." And she was like, "Oh no, that's not a side effect." And I
Mhm.
was like, okay, well, I feel gaslit here, and that doesn't work for me." And so I really chose to lean into a lot of the miseducation and misinformation about peptides. So I feel like I'm catching up a lot the past few months actually about peptides, but one of the favorite descriptions I have is peptides are like little messengers. They're tiny chain amino acids that tell your body what to do. And you can think of them as text messages between your cells that say, hey, let's repair the tissue. And let's boost the growth hormone. Let's give your body what it really needs. Let's help your metabolism. And they work with your body, not against your body, to optimize natural healing and regeneration. And that's been my experience. I know how to eat clean. I know how to take care of myself. But after having surgery induced menopause, um, and then my husband, he passed, we divorced about a decade ago due to alcoholism, but almost 3 years ago, he passed away. And my stress shot through the roof. He was my soulmate, the father of my three kids. And I gained probably almost 15 pounds right away. And I was already overweight. And I just thought, oh my gosh, one more thing. So when I started the end of July, I was really hoping that, you know, in 3 months I'd lose the 30 some pounds. I was really hopeful that it would be this magic bullet. And what I've really come to discover is it's such a beautiful partnership with everything that we do. And the having this good experience after all the years of me being like, oh, peptides are horrible. I wish I had opened my mind and set my ego aside and thought, it's okay for me to try something different. Um, so at this point, I have lost about 12 pounds, and I believe most of that has been inflammation. But that is the scale moving backwards when it hasn't in probably close to 5 or 6 years. And it's been such a good feeling to let go of some of that inflammation and for my mind to be more calm. That was the interesting thing. I had a massive life stressor happen in August, and I just handled it so calmly and so beautifully. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can tell it's healing my gut because my mind is so much more calm. So it's not just about the scale moving backwards, it's about me getting me back
Mm.
in my highest and best self. And
Mm.
I'm so grateful for that.
I'm sorry about your loss. Thank you for sharing your story, and it's beautiful. Thank you. Raquel, I could listen all day. You're so heartfelt, and I think a lot of us can relate to some part of your story, if not all of it. So thank you for sharing. Um, Now, as far as the peptides that you find most effective for metabolism and energy, which ones are those?
I am loving trizepatide and NAD. I have been dealing with fatigue for so long. I will just give you a heads up. There's something called the NAD reboot, which I did not find out about until after I took my first NAD injection. I took it on a Thursday morning, and that night I slept 14 hours. Could not wake up for the life of me. And I thought, wow, what the heck is this? And I Googled it, and they talked about the NAD reboot. Basically, my body was needing it so badly that it was like, finally, come on, woman. So glad you gave it to us. So now when I use NAD, I actually I have broken up the units into 4 days a week because my body desperately needed it. And it's been such a gift. I'm getting stuff done that I haven't been able to really address for probably close to a decade, because I don't know about anybody else out there, but when you deal with fatigue, it causes lack of motivation. It causes you to be like, oh, that can wait. And it feels so good to be catching up on life. So yeah, and combination of that with the trizepatide. I also deal with what's called the MTHFR variant, which means my body doesn't process the toxins out that great. And so I've been using the glutathione injections as well. And I had skin cancer removed in September. And so I started using GHK-Cu, the copper peptide. And I was going to use TB500. Am I saying the name right, honey? Okay.
Mhm. For sure.
Um, and when I went to order it before I had surgery, the doctors were like, nope, you can't have it. You have cancer. And at first I was like, what? But you need to trust me. I'm not going to take it till after it's gone. And what I really appreciated was that that LEMD's um, system is set up so that we're taken care of. And I really appreciated the integrity that the doctors who oversee the peptides have because of that.
Mm. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So, talking about holistic wellness, how do peptides fit in with nutrition, exercise, mindset?
Mm, yeah. Well, they're not, like I said earlier, they're not a magic pill. They're partners in our healing and our nutrition. So I look at them as accelerators. Like once I started using tirzepatide and NAD, my body was like, oh, yes, this is what we've been wanting. And so everything that I've been doing, the eating well, the walking, the weightlifting, the peptides were coming in and actually reminding my body what it needed to do. It's housing my soul. My soul can't really do its job if my body is laying on the floor, so fatigued and just, not just being in survival mode. And so I really believe the peptides help us get out of survival mode. And they really lay the groundwork for us to be able to have the nutrition and, well, not have the nutrition, but it just lays the groundwork for healing and restoring our body. And that's along with nutrition and movement and sleep and stress management, breath work being my favorite. as far as stress management's concerned, along with walking. I think walking is our underrated hero. Even if you can go outside for 5 minutes and walk, and it doesn't have to be fast. And you can get a small little, if you live in a really cold or wet area, like Washington is turning into here shortly, have one of those little tiny desk treadmills, so that right there is, it's all part and parcel of the peptides and the holistic, taking care of mind, body, and soul.
I've never heard of the NAD reboot. I've never heard of that. That's really, really interesting. I
Well,
see someone, yeah, someone wrote, can you put, oh, sorry. When starting NAD, does it make you tired for the first couple of weeks? For me, no, I felt the energy right away.
yeah. If
That's
you,
really interesting, Raquel. I guess it's different for everyone's body,
yeah,
depending on who they are.
I'm a big fan of start it low and slow. And, because like I've told some of my clients, you can't take it out of your body, but you can add to it.
Mhm.
And now when I take NAD, because I break it up over 4 days, over, Monday through Thursday, I'm not dealing with any sort of fatigue. I'm having that consistent little bit of normalized energy, which feels really good. It feels good to feel normal.
NAD recommended for stress.
I would start with trizepatide first,
Mhm.
because during all my life stressors, the only peptide I was taking in that moment in time was trizepatide, and that was helping heal my gut, which is helping with the stress. And then, yes, adding in the NAD, low and slow, my personal opinion.
Mhm. Well, it's also dependent on what your needs are. If mood, focus, energy are your primary target areas, I think that the, yeah, it
Yeah,
depends.
absolutely.
Yes, it's where you are in your journey. For
Yeah.
me, I think they pair really, really well together, both
Mhm.
tirzepatide and NAD,
Yes.
doing them separately. I like that. And it's also interesting with tirzepatide. Some people experience immediate lift in mood and energy and all sorts of things. Whereas for a lot of people, when I first started, for example, lethargy was, I felt it. I felt like I was in my first trimester of pregnancy. I was like, oh my God, I can't get through this. I'm exhausted all the time. But that was the first week or two. It just depends. Everyone's body reacts so differently to these peptides depending on what the body's needs are, right? Um,
Well, I think it's coming in and cleaning house. I mean, if you think about it.
mhm, that is true. So, before we move on, can you clear up some of the confusion? What are some of the myths and misconceptions that we hear about peptides or functional medicine? I mean,
Hmm.
you can have a very positive view on some of the peptides, but what are some myths and misconceptions?
Some of the myths about peptides are that, especially in the gym world, I love going to the gym, love working out, but I hear quite often, "Oh, that's cheating," and I was like, "No, no, it's not. I'm actually giving my body finally what it needs." And so I really, that's one of the biggest misconceptions I hear about peptides, is that it's a cheat code, or a shortcut. And it's not, because, like I said, it's in there actually helping clean house. It's actually helping us get to what we need to do to be our best optimal self.
Mhm.
And as far as functional medicine's concerned, a lot of misconceptions I hear about that is it's woo woo, wackadoodle, whatever, or people think that it's just like Western medicine where they have to be at death's door to actually get help. And I'm a big proponent of health care, not sick care. So I consider functional medicine true root cause healthcare, where someone needs, unlike traditional sick care, where someone needs to barely be functioning for them to actually get care. So when people bring me their lab work from, say, their regular traditional doctor, and they're like, well, the doctor says it's normal. And my favorite saying is, normal is a setting on a washing machine, not a human being. And I'm able to look through their labs through the lens of functional optimal medicine. And we're able to see if those labs are off when they're a pink flag before they become a red flag. And so that's some of the things that I hear, or that it's not real. real healthcare, but the more we dive into it, getting to the root cause of something before it becomes debilitating, before you can't function as a human being, I think that's really important.
Mhm. Let me see someone wrote, drives me nuts. Same people don't seem to think their statin BP meds or high blood sugar medicines are cheating. That's true.
Hmm.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. You're absolutely right. When I think of functional health, it's getting to the root cause of disease. And then from there, we could use and integrate all sorts of therapeutics. And like you're saying, it's everything. It's holistic. It's not just one thing. It's not just the peptides. It's not, well, weight loss is the first place you have to start. I mean, there's so much information, and we have years and years of research and data that talks and links obesity and weight gain to all sorts of diseases. So let's start there. That seems to be the big lever that we can pull.
Hmm.
From there, we could pull on the other levers. But you're absolutely right. The mind, body, spirit, they need to function together. It's a holistic approach. You
Yeah.
can't have one without the other because I like to relate it to bricks. Great. You have replaced every single brick with a brand new brick, but if you're building the same house over and over and over, you're going to get the same house. So
Hmm.
we have to change the blueprint, and that's the mind and the spirit, and fix the body cell by cell. So
Yeah.
uh, it's incredible. Let's talk about hydration and hormone balance and hormones a little bit. Uh,
Mm.
what are the small things that make a big difference over time? Like one simple habit that can make a big impact on your hormones and your overall health.
Mm. Well, it's not just, well, I'll have to say it's one thing, three things together: sleep, hydration, protein. And when I say protein, I don't mean a big scoop of Skippy's peanut butter. I mean, if it had a face or was going to have a face, that's protein. Um, because we need to balance out the blood sugar. We need to have optimal sleep. If they've done studies, and I'm sure you know this, but without enough sleep, we die. We die before, if we are sleep deprived or water deprived, we're going to die because of sleep deprivation first, quite often. Um, and I could be wrong, so correct me, but I'm just going off memory here from some of the studies that I've read over the years. So, hydration, though, is extremely important because it's what keeps everything moving, gets the toxins out. If we're not flushing the toxins out, we're just storing them within ourselves. And that has, that's creating that toxin load that we were talking about earlier. And so we want to flush all that out so that we have, you want to be going to the bathroom. And when I say bathroom, I'm not talking about number one, I'm talking about number two, kiddos. We want to be going at least twice a day. If we're not going once to twice a day, that means we're storing the toxins in. That means we need to drink more water. We need to hydrate. It's that important.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Water the plant. Treat
Yes.
your body as a plant. Give it water, some sunlight, sleep. It needs rest.
Yeah.
Machine. I'm trying to catch up on questions that are coming in. I just started semaglutide and having a hard time with nausea and hate taking the meds. Oh, well, that could be that it's not the right dose for you. You might need to start at a lower dose.
Hmm.
Because nausea can be a symptom of that.
Yes.
Or Zofran. I think if you're in your first week or two, you should get some Zofran and contact us. We could help you out with that process. But it could just be dehydration as well. There's all sorts of things. It could
Yeah.
be solved with a ginger chew, Zofran, or you need to titrate down. It could be just reach out to the providers and they can assist you
Yeah.
with.
I would
Um,
say I had really bad nausea when I started at 50 units, and I decided to go backwards. I started at 10 and titrated up, and I'm just now this week, after 2 months, getting to my full dosage with zero nausea. But I'm also making sure I'm hydrated and bringing that protein and eating, because if we don't eat, our body's going to get nauseous. It needs the caloric intake.
Yeah, and just a pro tip from someone who made this mistake, try to avoid high sugar foods when you're taking your medication. Even if you're a pro and you've been on the medications for a long time, it's still you're a lot more susceptible to getting nauseous when you pair it with, a sweet drink or cake or whatever it may
Cream, just
be.
saying. Avocado ice cream might seem healthy. Mm.
No?
It still has a lot of sugar.
True. So to close this section for men and women in their 40s and 50s, what changes do you recommend to support hormonal shifts naturally?
Well, for all folks, regardless of gender, they need to know this is a sacred time. And I actually wrote myself a little note. They need to be prior toward prioritizing protein, um, strength training, definitely. Get out there and lift some weights. I'm not saying be like me last year and go leg press 400 pounds and hurt yourself. Don't do that. But lift heavy for you and work on your nervous system regulation. As a trauma informed coach, one of the things that I will tell people that will balance all of their hormones out, well, part of the puzzle is regulating the nervous system, reminding themselves that they are safe, that they are loved, um, and reminding folks that the push harder mentality, that's so 92. They need to be going with ease, flow, and grace. And you're becoming what your soul is calling you to. So just a reminder, you are becoming.
Mm, it's beautiful. Thank you. So, as we think of the big picture of wellness, how can people stay consistent with healthy habits when life gets busy and stressful? Can we do?
Give ourselves grace, first of all. Be patient. What you can do is pick your three top favorite things. That might be hydration, protein, and sleep. And let's not forget the walking, but just a reminder, if they have to change their schedule around, wake up 10 minutes earlier so that they can hop out the door and go on a 10-minute walk, they're absolutely worth it. We're all worth that extra effort. We are divine, beautiful beings here, and we get to level up Mother Earth and one another by taking care of ourselves first, and then we get to take care of others.
Mm. So, on that note, what does self-care mean to you beyond the buzzword?
Mm. This is one of my favorite sayings, and I wrote it down, even though it's something that I've been sharing for years. I've been coaching since 2016. I'm sure most of us have a toddler in our life or have had a toddler in our life that we absolutely love and adore. And when that little toddler starts acting up, we don't look at that toddler and start cussing them out and telling them what a piece of crap they are. We hold them and we love them and remind them that they're going to be okay and that everything's okay and they're so loved. And I tell my clients, treat yourself like you would treat your favorite toddler. So in that moment, stop, hug yourself, hold yourself, remind yourself that you are everything you need to be and that you're going to be okay.
Mm, it's beautiful. To end on a empowering note, thank you, Raquel. Thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge and information and this beautiful talk. Um, to end, can you share one piece of advice with anyone ready to take charge of their health? If you had one piece of advice, what would that be?
Reach out to somebody who inspires you and who speaks to your soul and see what they're doing. Grab a mentor.
Mm, thank you. Any final words before we wrap our evening? Wrap up.
I am just so grateful for this opportunity and I yeah, I'm just filled with gratitude. Thank you so much for this opportunity. To me, this is a over a decade in waiting. This is, so much of my hard work and effort. And I hope that whoever invited you to this call, you'll reach back out to them and thank them and see how they can help you have your best life.
Oh, Leslie, that was lovely. I felt like I was in a therapy session. It was beautiful. Thank you so much for your beautiful, kind, empowering, nurturing words, Raquel. And if we wanted to find you, can you repeat where we can? How can we get in touch?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook under Feel Good Wellness.
Mm,
I'm on Instagram at feel.good.wellness. I
mm,
just reopened my TikTok at Feel Good Wellness, and feelgoodwellness.org.
mm. Well, thank you. Thank you. I know Brenda posted it below. So if you'd like to get in touch with Raquel, please click the link. And thank you all for tuning in. I mean, this is a self-love in itself to take out an hour of your busy day to tune in, to learn, to listen, to share. It's so beautiful. This is what we're doing, and that's the power of community so that we can all lean on one another. Um, Thank you all for spending your evening with us. And thank you again, Raquel, for the wealth of information and knowledge that you have and shared with our community. Thank you all so, so much. We'll see you back next week, same time, same place. Much love. Have a beautiful evening, everyone. Good night. Mwah.